Okay, so just before we start the new sugya, I mean everything's new, but last time we spoke, we finished Kol Sheyesh, right? And then we really skipped out a sugya over here, which is a very important sugya, which I wanted to say some important ideas on it. So, there's a Rambam that says as follows. The Rambam says, Chamisha minim hein. There's 5 chameshes minei dagan. There are 5 minim. The first one is chitin, sa'irin, kusmin, shibay lashul, shipin, and that's min hasa'irin. This is a Rambam per Gimel HaRav halacha aleph. The Rambam continues in halacha Gimel, kemach shel echad mechameshes aminim, sheshalku ve'irvu b'mayim oy b'shar mashkim. You mixed it with water or other mashkim, mevarach ala b'tchila b'ayim min mezainis, l'seif ala mechiv ala kalkala. That's our mezainis. You have one of the chameshes minei dagan, you make a mezainis. Now, why do you make a mezainis? Zak the Tur. In the beginning of Reish Ches, he says really 2 reasons. One is, Shenishtabcha b'hen Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael was praised with it. V'oid yesh la'maylik yalem yichya adam. The person lives on it. The person lives on chameshes minei dagan, has a lot of substance. So therefore, we make a bracha of b'ayim minei mezainis. So those are the 2 reasons why we go ahead and make a bracha of b'ayim minei mezainis when it comes to chameshes minei dagan. Now, there's different opinions in the Rishonim. When do you make a bracha chameshes minei dagan mezainis? The Gemara says on Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph, Eilu ein ma'aseh kedera, which you make a mezainis. Chilka, targis, soiles, zariz, v'arsan, v'ayris. What are these words? Chilka, targis, zariz, v'arsan. What is this? The Rashi explains, Chilka, chiti de metavri ba'asisa chadal etati. You break it. 1 into 2. You break it. That's what Chilka is. Targis, chadal etlas. Zariz, chadal ha'ava. Arsan is chadal ha'chamish. So, B'kitzah, what's going on here is that you're breaking the kernel and you cook it with water, you make a mezainis. Now, why do I need to break it? What's this thing of breaking it? Who cares if I break it? What's wrong if I cook it when it's full, when it's complete, when it's shalom? Why do I have to go out and break it? Now I want to tell you, this is a big yesod, and I spoke to many people about this, even the Mechaber Svarim, the Heintige Mechaber, and it's very important shakavataya that I had with them. It's going to be very negeya of many halachas. So that's why I feel it's very important to discuss this today, before we get into the next shmuz. We have here again, the Gemara tells us clearly, chameshes minei dagan, when does it get it in Maisik there that I make the mezainis? Chilkat, tigis, all these words that we heard, is something that you break it open, it's broken, the kernel is broken, you cook it, then you make a mezainis. If you cook the kernel complete, you do not make a mezainis. Clear? Understand the Gemara. The reason for this is very interesting. Let me first read you the Magen Avraham. The Magen Avraham brings down, Shulchan Aruch says, Chameshes minei dagan sheshalkan oy kasasham. V'asamem tavshul kigay ma'aseh kedera, you make a b'ayim minei mezainis. In fact, the Magen Avraham, it's mash. What's shalkan? Shalkan means cooking. Ksisha means crushing. So, in fact, the Magen Avraham, I don't understand why the beginning of Shulchan Aruch says shalkan without ksisha, without crushing it, and in Sif Dalet it says sheshalku agayin shleimu v'arach b'ayit b'yadama. It's mashma that cooking itself is enough. On that he bleib shver. Now the Mishabura says very clearly, shalkan doesn't mean cooking. It means separating, chilkan, you cut it. Let's state in the Mishabura. Now, halacha l'maisa. If you cook chitim complete in their peel, and it wasn't the smachel, you make a bayah pri adama. Okay, you have to listen to this because it's a very negay. That's what we're going to get to now, which is going to be discussing, you know what people eat? This is from the hardest brachos out there. And people eat it for a diet. You know what I'm referring to? Who?
Return?
No. Genola bar. Very good, Rabbi Trappa. Genola bar. Genola bar is a big shaila in the bracha. Why is it a big shaila? What's happening by genola bar? Now let's get this again. When am I making a mezainis? When the chitim are complete, I do not make a mezainis. It has to be cracked. Now, let's go right. If it's nismachu, even if it's not cracked, you'll make a mezainis. What does nismachu mean? Mushy. Okay? You'll make a mezainis. Now, another yisaid is that if it's not nismachu yafa, the Mishabura says you'll make a bayah priyadama, not a mezainis. Okay, so now let's try to first explain, and then we'll see the halacha l'maisa. Why do I need that it should be split? What's this pshat? Where does this come from? It has to be split. Why when I cook it only if it's split, if it's cracked, then I'll make a mezainis? Zak levush, because that's when it's mazing. If it's not split, it's not mazing. Okay? This is levush and siman reish ches, siv daled. He says the only reason why, when do I make a mezainis? Only if it's split. Why? Because that's the metzias, that's when it's mazing. Else you would not get full. Okay? That's levush. HaRav says it different. He says, because you have to eat a derech achila. Derech achila is to only eat it when it's split. Even though you're eating it when it's not split, that's your achila, that's not considered derech achila. That's HaRav. And the Pischei Halacha, that's Rabbi Force from Rockaway, he has a whole letter about this, and he says that in order to be considered something Ma'aseh Kedeira makes a mezainis. What's that? That's only if it's split. If it's not split, it shows that what I'm cooking is chitim uv'shalas v'zehu. So now let's talk about first pearl barley. You know what pearl barley is? Barley. Okay? Now, how's that used? So there's a sefer called HaRav. HaRav says like this. If he has birurim, ruba de ruba shal sa'irim, this barley, shemishtamshim behem hen garise penina, that's pearl barley, that the klipa, the shell was taken off, and also part of it was also taken off. When they take off the shell, they take off part of the barley. Part of the barley comes off with it. So he says, we know that if the shell and part of it was taken off, it's not shalom anymore, and therefore you make a mezainis. Okay? This is called in the Sefer HaRav. There's a very, very used Sefer in HaRav called V'zais HaBracha, written by Rabbi Mandelbaum. I think he's American or English.
He spoke for us at the end.
Oh yeah, okay. So he has a Sefer called V'zais HaBracha. He has a 10th printing or something. It was a big Sefer on HaRav. So he writes like this. He says, you make a bayah pe'adam on barley. So you're misopik what bracha you make on your challah, the adam on the potato, the mezainis on the barley, the shahakal on the meat. He says you make adama. Why? He says like this: what's taken off? Taken off is just a klipa, but the thing is still complete. If the thing is still complete, you make adama. You don't make a mezainis. What? So he says. Let me tell you what he says. He says, like this tzaddik is saying over here, they make it round. So obviously, part of the pearl, part of the barley is also taken off. So he says, no, that's shalai b'kavana. Because really what they want to do is just to take off the klipa. Just to take off the cover. Just to take off the, what's it called? The peel. The shell. The grada, it's very hard to take off the shells. They also take off part of the barley. But that's not the intentions. Okay, so what? What's the difference? Right now it's taken off. He says it's following. He says, he brings a Magen Avraham and Simon Taf Nun Daled that says, it's impossible that they should just take off the shell. Always has to come off with something. So obviously that's not considered taking off. In order to take something off, in order to say that the barley is incomplete, is not shalom, is only if you kavana lahedit to take off. Because if you're just trying to take off the klipa and part of it comes off, that's always. They never had a machine better that they could just take off the klipa. But if I could, they would want to have everything of the barley in it. They wouldn't want to take it off. The pshat is that it's automatically that it comes off. That's not considered enough of taking off. And therefore he says that on pearl barley you make a hadama.
What's pearl? Shell?
No, barley, because it's a barley.
Pearl is a verb. Make it round. Make it round.
He says there's such a thing called pinhead pearl barley. Could they show that?
We can show anything.
Okay, no, because it's very negay. There's regular pearl barley and there's, I don't know if it's called.
Pesach, are you there? Let's see if we can find all sorts of barleys for the road.
There's pinhead pearl barley and there's pearl barley. So he says barley soup, hadama. This is how the V'zayis HaBracha paskin. You hear what's going on here? It's not nesmayach enough to know to say that it's mamish mush. We don't know what nesmayach means, and I'll get to it soon. Very important story I had with Shmuel Kamenetsky on this. I'm sure you know Shmuel Kamenetsky's psak.
No, we don't.
So 1 second. So we skipped the whole Amid without doing this? I didn't realize. I didn't know what your terms were. I said I was doing this. I didn't know it's.
I thought we were doing
Oh.
but that makes no difference.
Okay, fine. No, this is mamish. Okay, no. Okay, this is mamish. You say this at Shumas. Okay, so it doesn't look like he has any pictures for this bar.
We'll get your pictures. No
Oh yeah.
problem.
Okay.
So if he's there, he'll get your pictures. But let's go back to the question. So we're talking here about meaning different types of barley.
Yeah, the Bible we discussed. We said a Gemara. The Gemara says it has to be chilka. That's what the Gemara says in Lamed Zayin and Aleph. It has to be that it's split. Now, if the Gemara is telling us that it has to be split, we have to know if our barley is split. Is it split or not? If it's not split, you'll make Adama. So we go so quick to make on Shalom Mezainis, and we know that the Ikav Tafel and this and that, Kol Sheyeshba, and boom, Mezainis on everything, just one bracha. Well, let's take a step back. Barley might be Adama. The V'zayis HaBracha writes in his Sefer, it's Amid 275, Oiz Dalet, 274, sorry. Again, he has many different halakim. This is the last one that I saw. Over there, he writes, you make Adama. He's not to make Adama. He says, on pinhead pearl barley, which I don't think that's what you buy. That's little round ones. Over there, it's lahedi, made it small. So over there, you should go ahead and make mezainis. But regular barley in the store, you make a hadam. You know what's going on here? Now let's move on. So later on, I saw in a Kaivetz Kal Torah, that's I think from England, they put it out. In Chaveres Membeis, this is printed Nisan Tafshin on Zayin. He brings the Mekar Bracha. We said the Mekar Bracha was from England. He says he make a mezainis. So he says the Mekar Bracha made a lot of drishas v'chakiyas on this to find out the Metzias. And he says, you know what? I came out, the V'zayis HaBracha was right. Mekar Bracha is the one that says mezainis that we're relying on. He says, I came out, V'zayis HaBracha is right. And he says like this. He wrote to the Sainsbury, I don't know who that is, they sell barley. Okay? So let me tell you what they wrote to. What happened to your barley? So I'll read you the lashon that he writes in English. Our pearl barley is milled lightly to remove the husk. However, other parts of the grain may be removed in the process. The intention is to remove the husk only. Fine. So I'm a little worried. I said it's a mezainis. I'm taking back my psak. It's Adama. I spoke to the company. Then he spoke to another company, Nathan Frost. You heard of that one? Okay. So I'll tell you what he wrote. That's I want to see if they sell it, if that's what we're buying. Do you know what type of pearl barley we buy? What does your wife buy? What do you buy? I have no idea.
Right? We talk barley?
Yeah, barley.
It comes in a package.
No, that's
That's a step to my knowledge.
Libras and Geffen, that's a fake word. They're not. Who's the supplier? Who's that? Listen. Okay, so let me read to you what he writes. Nathan Frost. This place they sell barley.
We have pinhead barley on the screen here, but they may not see it on the.
I don't see it here, but it's on the
Right,
screen
it's
here.
on the screen
Who
here.
put it? You put it on? No. Oh, you got it. Oh, that's right. So we don't see it on the screen here, but we see it on the screen. So pinhead is teeny. No one buys this. These are very. So this everyone agrees is mezainis because this is cut and you cook it. You don't need the smayach. The problem is like this: if it's the smayach, then it's mezainis automatic. But we don't know what the smayach is. The smayach can be very mushy. We never get that mushy. So this is okay. So this is pinhead. Now regular barley is a lot bigger than this. Okay, so therefore, there you have it. Pearl barley. Okay, there you go. So what's that? That's probably raw. I mean, how does barley come like a tchila? What does it look like? What's the size of a regular barley off the tree? Right, but I'm saying, but let's pin it. See, right? So you're on pinheads still, right?
On the bottom, if you move up a little bit, you see the regular barley. If you just scroll up.
Right. So
The other way
should I
around.
move this? Should I move this to the screen?
The other way. There. That's regular barley. Looks like regular barley. We're getting it shown. On the left, up on the upper left. This one.
Oh, that looks more like regular barley, huh?
Unless you know what regular barley really looks like. No, to us.
This is regular barley?
Barley looks that way too. Just maybe that's pearl. Look, I don't see it. Close it, you see the split on it.
This looks like a little piece of bread. I don't know. Okay, so let's move on. So this Nathan Frost, they wrote him like this: we carry different sizes of pearl barley. The first is the large grain, a pot barley which is milled to remove only the husk, and any part of the grain which may have been removed is purely an adverent. We also carry a pinhead pearl barley which is milled from the larger grain, specifically and deliberately the husk and part of the grain are both removed. So these two companies said very clearly that when I'm going ahead and removing the husk, what we're doing is by regular barley is just to remove the husk. A little bit might come off with it, but that's not our intention. So therefore, he says that the HaRav is right, that you should make Adama. Because we don't know if it's really Nismayach, so maybe you should make Adama. That's what he came out. Then he says, yeah, one second. Then he goes, he says, weiter. He says that, no, I could still make a chiluk. Because when something is the derech for it to cook, then maybe, the means is coming like this. He says, he brings a raya from rice, oires, that if something is the derech for it, he brings mishabura, that if that's the normal way to cook it, maybe it gets a mezainis also. Even though it's not nesmayach, and even though it's not cracked, but maybe it still has the mezainis. He's medama, he says maybe sa'irim, that roiv darkam lahasiraka klipa, it's dina mamish kairis. The mekilim levarach mezainis, apilim husirak klipasa. Kivan shederech ha'ayis levashik kishur shalom. So he says that hadin din emes, that l'chayra, the belt makes a mezainis, you could stay with a mezainis. Oh, that makes it more complicated. He doesn't talk about that. But he says, Mistama the din's din emes, and you can make a mezainis. Why? Because for saif, it might be the derech to cook like that, and once the derech to cook like that, it stays with its bracha. That's what he wants to say. Now, then, so the Vizaysa bracha, in a different sefer, he answers up this Mikara bracha that you're staying with a mezainis. He says, no, don't bring me right from Eirez, that's the normal. Over here, Mechates to say that's the normal. So therefore, no, he says, you still make a Adama. So we have now back to the same Machlokes. The Vizaysa bracha tells me that I make a Adama. The Mekara bracha tells me that I make a Mezainis. I spoke to the Vizaysa bracha. A few years ago, I spoke to him about this. And he said, L'maisa, Bizmanenu, and Chutlaret, you make a Mezainis. Because he says, even though that he wrote in the Sefer that people aren't mechaven to go ahead and to take off part of the barley, but today they are mechaven. Because any time that it has any roundness to it, they're mechaven for it. So he says, therefore, you make a mezainis. So in the Sefer, he's writing Adama. To me, he told that he was chayzer, and he's masking that you should go ahead and make a mezainis. Now, what's his raya? The Mishabura brings down in Reish Ches Sifkat and Tezvav. The Mishabura says, "Sa'orim shehusar klipasa." v'gam miktas mehen gufa. Ayidei tchinas harechayim, shenasim ktanim masher mikaydim, hanoyigin levarich aleim bayim minim mezaynos la'achem ein shalish t'katchila, after loy nismacho de bishul ein limchayz biyadam. Mr. Brewer says, don't be meicher for the people that are going ahead and making a bracha mezaynos on something which is miktas man gufa came off. So therefore, ein limchayz biyadam. So I told him, Mr. Brewer just says ein limchayz biyadam doesn't mean that you should make a mezaynos. So he said, he asked this to the Oznidbru. The Oznidbru was Rabbi Binyamin Zilb, he's not living anymore. And he told him that when the Mishnah Berurah writes ein limchayz biyadam over here, it means that's what you should do. Okay? If that's what you should do, so it's very interesting. The Mishnah Berurah just writes ein limchayz biyadam. It's mashma more than the Mishnah Berurah you should make a adama. Well, the Maisa, since the Mishnah Berurah writes ein limchayz biyadam, the Mishnah Berurah over here means that's what you should do. And also, Moshe writes in Shuvah that it's partial that you should make it by minim zaynis. So that's how we know it. So now, let's give a little sikum in this. Moshe writes in Shuvah in Arechayim Chelik Aleph Siman Samaches. If it's a suffix, if it was husa more than the klipa, you should make it by minim zaynis. Why? Because even if b'vadai husa only the klipa itself, somehow you make it by minim zaynis. So once you're mesupik that maybe more than the klipa came off, the Moshe says you make a bayim minim zaynis. And Moshe Steinbach writes in his Chuvas Anagis Chelekei, Siman Samach Gimel Oistes, he says on Bali, he says you make him a zaynis because al piroyiv niklaf imay miktas agaran atzma comes off, therefore you make him a zaynis. There's a sefer called Shulchan Atar that he says kol mine pearl bali, even though the garan is shalem, since that's the normal way to eat it and it's mishtabach for good, for better, therefore you go ahead and you make a bayim minim zaynis. So at the end of the day, let's stay with our guns. As much as you want to be mesupik, the whole v'zayis HaBrachos tumul. Did he stay with Adam? Didn't he? We have Rav Gedolei HaPaiskim that agree that you make a mezaynis. Now, the shaila is like this. So now let's move on. So pearl bali itself, bali b'kitzer, bali in shalom. First of all, it could be that it's nismayich, and even if we're saying it's Friday night and it's not nismayich, l'maisa geret, most of the Gedolei HaPaiskim hold that that's considered that the bali itself broke a little bit. It's more than just Susar Klipasan, and therefore you make a bayre mine mezaynis. That's the chayra klar what we're coming at. Really? What? That when they cook the barley, part of it would come off?
It came off way before. It's like a peel, like a thin peel on it, like an onion. Us? I remember those. It wasn't complete one piece.
Where in America this is going?
That's not pearl barley. No, not pearl barley.
So what is it? Oh, so what was that? You mean it was a different type of barley? You got the whole barley itself. That will be a problem. Okay. So I just want to tell the people online that this on Zoom that there is something they still sell it today. There was a barley that they had on the market that they would be selling that was a complete barley, and even when you cooked it, you saw some of the peel coming off. So Enochanami, that is very questionable, and there l'chayr you should be making adama. Again, not vade adama, but akapanim to make a vade mezaynis, that's pretty scary. But today, our pearl barley, the mice, what? I'm sorry? Nismach. Unless it's crushed. Unless you can crush it. Now you have to know. So by Shabbos morning, normally it's crushed. But Friday night, lav dafka, it's that soft that it's crushable. Shabbos morning, and even sometimes Shabbos morning, if you have a dry cholent, it's still pretty hard. If there's a lot of water in the cholent, then normally it's a smile. Sometimes, as I find that there's so much water that you don't even see the barley anymore. It gets so completely mushed into the cholent, it gets like dissolved somewhat. I don't know how that's Matthias, but it seems like that's Matthias.
So then it's not even the Rizonis, right?
Then it's such a mezainis that you can't even get more than that. It's so nismayach that you make the biggest mezainis.
You make a mezainis.
Sure, you make a mezainis. That's real nismayach. even if it's complete legami, it's shalom with all, doesn't make a difference because now it's a smaich. The smaich is another side why you make him a zayis. So now, let's talk about, so we came out Lamaisa that a pearl barley, even with mit'ala sva, the end of the day is that you're going to make him a zayis. Why? Because our barley is definitely peeled a lot, and it's not just peeled, the peel is off, it's also part of the barley itself is cut, and therefore you would make him a zayis. Now, what we have to discuss is sugar, crisp, or puffed wheat. You know what I'm talking about? You have that cereal? It's a cereal. Sugar, crisp, puffed wheat, healthy, not healthy, but like upon him, there is such a cereal. So what bracha are you making on that? Now like this. L'chayra, it should be tali in the levush and the shulchan and HaRav, the two pshatim that we said before, why you need it to be cut. The levush said that dafka when it's cut, then it's mazin. Isn't the barley a small quantity of what? What's the question? Is a small of the child? But that's what we're saying kol sheyeshba. Since even though it's a small quantity, since it's kol sheyeshba, so maybe you would make a mezanis.
Day 3 or day 4, when I leave it, let's say in the middle of the week, I don't see anything. I can't see anything. I still have to make mezanis on the whole challah.
Sure. Why not?
Because once had some barley in it.
It still has the barley, you just don't see it.
So it's an alamichi also.
Alamicha is a whole nother discussion which we'll have to discuss. That I have a question for you, just to throw you, a curveball. When you eat cake, chocolate cake, you make alamicha, right? I'm sure. You know how much flour is in that piece of cake you ate? Probably a teaspoon, if that. It's mostly sugar and chocolate and I don't know what, and eggs, right? And you're okay with making alamicha, right? How do you do that? So that's for the big discussion. We'll have to get into that one day. The Shabura and others. Some people are makbid that they should eat like a rugula or something along with it. Like this, there's a lot more flour in a rugula or kakash cake. Some of them. When they're eating, let's say chocolate cake, a brownie. You know how much flour is in a brownie?
You telling me that a regular brownie wheat doesn't have enough flour for a lasagna?
No way. Today, Achilles Pass, you would have to eat a whole cake.
Anybody know that?
And you have to eat a whole cake of how much flour do you think goes into? Ask your wife if she makes a chocolate bar, sponge cake. How much flour goes into the whole sponge cake?
Mostly air.
Mostly air, eggs, sugar, lemon, or whatever. I have no idea what the ingredients are, but flour, maybe a cup in a whole sponge cake. Right? A whole sponge cake, you don't normally sit down to eat a whole sponge cake. So it's not kedei achilas pras.
For the kids, you gotta eat crackers. That's really the only safe thing.
Again.
And you got how many crackers you gotta eat?
Not so much. Crackers, not so much. If you eat kichel, you're safe because that's mostly flour.
You know what those big rat kichels are also air pockets. And
They don't make that anymore. I mean, the islands are not into that. In the West Side, is still into that. In Lakewood, you get the flat ones. Right, that's what I was more into. And I'm joking. Right, yeah. That has a lot of flour to it, right? So I'm not passing. I'm not coming out. I'm just telling you. You ask me a question. How much barley you have in challah? I'm telling you, every piece of cake you eat, kamat. The Danish has a lot of flour in it because it's thickener. But you have a marble cake. There's come out no flour. That chocolate and the yellow. There's come out no flour there. I mean, how much flour is there? So sweet. You can't eat too much of it.
Equal amount. Okay, so we're supposed to have with the chocolate. So let's get the chocolate clear. You might have the barley and the chocolate.
Right. So we're telling you it's klad. The end of the day is the barley and the chocolate with ala sveikas. If you have your barley that they sold 30, 40 years ago, that you were still, the husk was falling off in the barley, then I would say I'll be okay to make me adama. But since we're not dealing with that, we're dealing with barley that we have, our pearl barley. All of them are cut off somewhat, like I think we saw some pictures here, that they're all round. That's not the way it grows. I don't think that's the way it goes. It grows much bigger. So since it grows much bigger, something's coming off. We're not taking the V'zayis HaBrachos Chiddush, and since I spoke to him about it, and to me it seemed like he was also chayzer. It could be he was chayzer from what he was chayzer. To me, I have no idea. But I'm not going to speak to him every day to find out where he's standing today. I feel very strongly that you make him a Zionist. Now,
the other beans are brutal.
in a mezan? Okay, we're in coming to discuss with the child. We're not coming to do ikkav v'tafel now. But in my shahal that you make one bracha on shalom and mezainis and that's it. You want to know if other chalkim? Yeah, there are chalkim. Some say that the pieces are very big. We'll get to that in the end of the parak. In the Ikkev Tafel, there's a famous Chai Adam. Adam says that if pieces are nicker, it doesn't become bottle. So you have a big potato there, and you're making a zainis. It's pretty it's like slice of but you have a big piece of meat your wife puts in, and all of a sudden you're making a zainis in that piece of meat. Okay, we'll get to a mitzvah and Ikkev Tafel. But anyway, so let's get back to over here with this. Oh yeah. So now I gather want to take a break for a minute and discuss, because it's also the same before we get back to granola bars and all that. I want to just talk about rice for a minute, because rice is the same shmooze. And by rice, there's the Gemara says, Iris, you make a mezainis. What's Iris? The Gemara says Iris and Deichen. You know what those two things are? Rashi says Iris is mill, Deichen is pants. Now, those words, whatever that means. Tosfos says Iris mill, Rashi says V'yesh mefarshim rise. Ulahai pirish yesh safarish b'Deichen hainu mill. So that means Rashi doesn't have anything as rice. Rashi says mill or pants. That means the Gemara says Iris and Deichen, you make a mezainis. Okay, fine, that's very good. But what is that? So Rashi says Iris is mill, Deichen is pants. Tosfos says that Iris is rice. Okay, so we have a Tosfos that tells us Iris is rice. What's in Rashi? Rice? We have no idea what bracha to make. Why would you make a mezainis? It grows out of the ground. No problem. Why would you make a mezainis? Right? No, there's no mention in the Gemara anything about rice, like Rashi. Like Tosfos, there's a mention about rice. So fine. So like Tosfos, on rice, you make a mezainis. Now, there's many rishonim about this, but that's clear, like we said before, that it has to be nismayach. So what's called nismayach? We don't know exactly what should be called nismayach.
Well, we know what it means. Question to what degree?
Yes, exactly. So now, what's the difference between brown rice and white rice?
The husk.
Yes. Brown rice, they did not take off the husk so much. White rice, they took off the husk. So, what bracha should you make on brown? Let's talk about first white rice. Okay? Now, white rice, let's say they took off the husk. True. But is it nismayach? They didn't break part. It's not like pearl barley. It's not like barley. Barley is very round. Rice is not as round. You have a picture of rice? How it comes off the tree, off the ground.
Pesach,
Pesach's not around.
Give us a picture of rice. Rice plant. Rice plant.
Right.
Quite odd. Unexpectedly. You think that rice is a little small thing out of the bottom of the ground?
It's not? I don't know what it looks like.
Okay. Rob will give us a moment. Rice find a picture of rice. I don't know if it's. There we go.
Here's the rice plant.
See, he's showing it to us. It's not on here. Right, so no, I'm saying they're not seeing it on the Zoom.
You see?
Oh, okay. Now let's take off a little bit of the husk. Let's see what it really looks like. Does it look so much different than when we see it in the store? When we're buying?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's difficult. No, it looks the same shape to me. What's the rice? The yellow or those things hanging?
Green, I think the green.
No, the yellow. Oh, those little pieces hanging, you mean? No, that looks like stam. That looks like garbage. It looks like the yellow is the thing that's.
I think mostly it's a husk.
You have an alternate view, Pesach. Give us another picture because we're confused.
It's not Pesach doing it. It's him doing it.
Oh, you're doing it.
That's what I'm saying. It's not online.
Oh,
They're not seeing it.
That's what. Not here today. Okay.
Look at that. It doesn't look like rice to me.
He's operating.
It's like rice in a.
So should I push this for them to see? The people on Zoom to see? Should I move this?
Rice plant, they tell them to search on rice plants. Everybody that's online.
You're talking to online people.
So search for rice plants on Google, they'll see some pictures. Tell them that.
Okay, for the item on Zoom, we can't see this, but we're showing pictures of various rice plant stalks, right?
Just search on rice plants.
The other on Zoom should search themselves on rice plants. That's all we're seeing. We're not seeing too much more than Oh, someone sent the link.
Help us have them. Okay, here's the picture. Go see the picture.
Okay. I'm still not seeing.
Here's parts of a rice plant. Look at that. Here's parts of a rice plant.
One second. He has in his hand, that guy, right? That doesn't look too much different than what we have.
Look at the middle one. Look at the middle one. Let's see, rice parts of a rice plant. Below that. Below that. To the right. To the right. That one. That one.
Make it big. What is that?
Yeah, parts of a rice plant. There you go. Look at that picture. Maybe go down. Maybe here.
All right.
Look at that. There's a husk, the bran, the kernel, and the grain, and the germ.
Okay. So, but we don't see the thing itself.
See the diagram.
Because it's still underneath the thing, that's why.
Right. So we're not seeing it. Okay.
It hasn't been, I'm not shell, is that called shell, take the green off?
Husk.
Yes.
Whatever, something. Yeah.
Take off the kernel.
So what's brown and what's
Oh,
white?
so brown has the brand still on it.
That's question is brown, I think it's brown.
Anything healthy they take off.
Anything healthy they take off. Oh, someone's
The green part.
someone's putting it online here.
Green is the husk.
You try green both up and down,
Yes, that's what it says.
so they take the green off, what is that? As you tell me, brown rice has that green around it?
No, brown rice has the brown around it.
Bran-
Hey, look at the person in the middle, in the picture over here. I don't think, oh yeah, right there. He's holding it in his hand. That looks like our how to grow rice. This doesn't look so much different than the rice that we have. A little bit, it has the brown around it. So brown rice has more of the brown around it. That means they don't take off the whole peel. That's all brown rice is. They keep the healthy part on. White rice looks good, but it's really not healthy. So brown rice is not a different rice. Right? Are we correct? Rabbi Black, you asking to that?
Bran, I can't tell whether it's bran or the husk. I can't tell.
I think that's the truth. That brown rice is something which is the same rice, just the bran is left on it. A little bit more than white. Look at the white rice, right? On the side. That's completely cleaned. Brown is not peeled as much. Is Olam okay with that? Yeah, you okay with that? No, because it's going to make a big enough community. Don't be okay so quickly.
Look at that picture.
Yeah, that's the picture I was discussing. That's what I see over here, what they're showing online. So that's white rice. Okay, that we know. We have this white rice. But I just want to show you also that by barley doesn't stay as long. That means they cut it much more. It's much smaller and round. This rice is much more of its tzura. So by the white, I would feel comfortable to say that they just take off the bran, they just take off the coating around it, and what's going on is that coating is just the husk, and they leave the rice intact. Mashiach came by brown rice. What they're doing is they're taking off they're not taking it off as complete. Is that being said?
Definition, look at that definition.
We don't have
Brown
it.
rice is whole grain that contains bran and germ. White rice is refined grain
Oh.
that has these parts removed.
Okay.
Bran and the
There you
germ is
go.
removed.
So it's clear, like we said. So it's very clear that we're right. The brown rice is just more. There are more parts that they take off than than white rice. Sorry, white rice they take off more than brown rice. So if so,
You take off the husk, definitely. That's definitely.
okay. Now if so, let's get to our halacha. Now brown rice with the husk is still on. So why are you making him a Zionist? The bran is still on. The bran is still on. Why are you making him a Zionist? It's not nismayach legami. When your wife gives you for supper brown rice, is that nismayach legami? No. So if it's not nismayach legami, why am I making him a Zionist? You hear the shaila? Now, it might not be a shaila. It might be halacha l'maaseh.
Well, that's better than the white rice, right?
It tastes better, but mitzad the bracha, it's healthier. But mitzad the bracha, zok the pischa halacha, you make a adama. Halacha l'maaseh. It's not peeled. It's not peeled. It's not broken up. Sorry, peeled is not enough. It has to be that it's broken, chilka, like we saw the Gemara. It has to be that it's split. And even if it's not split, but chotcha should be nesmayach. You can't tell me that it's nesmayach, legami. It's totally crushed. Yeah.
What's it done?
Huh?
Tell me it's an Adama.
No, I'm just saying the Vayla, don't leave yet. I'm telling you that the Pischa Halacha writes this Halacha L'maisa. Again, Rabbi Forst was a murder place to give HaRav and many other things also. In the Sefer Pischa Halacha, Amid Kuf Nun, Ois Nun Zayin, he says that Hiyayim Mimtzam Shnei Sugei Oyres. There's two types of rices. Echad Oyres Malay, Shehinai Kala, but not completely peeled. The Tzivay Chaim, it's brown. Ve'en levarach al mezainis. Don't make a mezainis in it. Elam kein es rachach ben es mach tzasay de bishul. Avlam leid es rachach mevarach al by pe'adama. It's not es rachach, make it by pe'adama. Hasug hasheni oyres kolov. The second sug is that it's peeled. Shehus strictly pasam e'elavan. It's white. Very similar. White rice. V'dino shem nizbashal at shadavka agarinim zelazeh. Then if it's cooked and it's dafku zelazeh, then you'll make a mezainis. Began laid off because by white rice. I have a question for you. You eat white rice, yeah? You've eaten it in the past. Is it nismai? Is it dafku zebazeh? If you put ketchup in there, it'll be dafku. Before you put the, I have no idea. It's dafku zebazeh? Sometime. Okay. So are you ready to take the plates? Okay, I'm making mezainis and white rice. I left brown rice for a minute. Are you ready to take the plates? That you know what? For sure, Kamenetsky is not ready to take the plates. And I saw him by Chasana. I met him by Chasana a few years ago, and I said, what bracha do you make on rice? So he says, my mother told me Adama. I asked him, like, what do you mean? What does the Yeshiva mean? So he says, my mother told me to make Adama. That's how I'm not saying you should make Adama. That's what my mother told me. I said, what did your father hold? Bianca Kamenetsky was. And he just stayed with my mother. He said, it's not Nismach. I'm worried, it's not Nismach. So we want to know what Shmuel Kamenetsky does. On even white rice, he makes Adam. You hear what's going on there? Because Mehecha tastes the Smaich. Gets the Smaich, it gets mushy.
No, it's not. You can't just say sushi. Stick together. Sushi rice stick together. That's how you cook it.
Now, I don't know. I'm not sure it's sushi, but I don't know if that's because the fluid, not the starch, the grease in there, the whole shmiach over there, whatever you call it. It's because the rice, or it's because the it's cooked with sugar. You see, his rack is kind of different. Yeah, we're going to talk about all these cases, Mitchell. That's the plan. I don't think we're going to have time today, but talk about all these things. I'm just trying to bring out first this halacha. We started with pearl barley, now we're going to rice, and we're making things a little bit difficult here. Again, let's talk about brown rice, and we'll get back to white rice. What's the difference between brown rice? Brown rice, the klipa is not completely removed. So if the klipa is not completely removed, it's very difficult to become a mezainis because we need that it should be split. The rice itself should be split. But let's say not, has to be in the smayach legamri. Over here, very hard to say, especially by brown rice, that it's the smayach legamri. Brown rice is normally pieces, it doesn't connect really. And if it's going to connect, it might be out the sugar, it might be out other reasons, there's some juice to it, that some sauce that you put to it, that's going to be the connector, but not because the rice itself is nismayach. So if so, zok to pischa halacha, you make a bar pe'adam. Now we'll get to it. Why mistama? The minhag is not like that. But let's divide. Say now again, we're discussing brown rice. I just spoke about white rice because he brings that in, but we'll get to white rice in a minute. White rice is leicht. What? True. Okay. So what? But maybe they cooked it like this child over here, Jonathan Baker said, a very good nakuda. That is this the baker from Australia? Okay. Now someone just texted in baker. There's a baker from Australia. What? No, Brooklyn. Okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah, what? How long you cook it, it won't disintegrate? It doesn't have to disintegrate, but it does get very soft and it could get mushy. That means the reason why it's sticking to one to another might be because it gets very soft and mushy. After many hours, that could happen. If you bake it, it'll never get like that. You put it in the oven, bake. You have rice with chicken. Your wife gives you rice with chicken. I don't think it'll get in a smayach. But if you cook it for a long time, it could be that it'll get in a smayach. Okay, but one second. Let's get back to what we're saying. So again, I started telling you the Pischa Halacha. Rabbi Forst in the Sefer writes that you make a Adam. the v'zayis HaBracha. So over there, he says near butter that they ate. Someone was saying that I forgot it was a chapter. You were saying that Amal, there was no such thing as white rice. So the Mishnah Berurah was discussing brown rice. That's what they had. They didn't have the machines that a good cook doesn't make mushy rice. Okay, Kenzan, a passion. But 1 second, it could be. So he says like this. He says it can't be that they ever had white rice. In Mishnah Berurah's days, there's no such thing. There's no machine that was able to make white rice. White rice is something done in America, or not only in America. The past 50 years that they have special machinery that can make a white rice. So in Europe, they only use brown rice, and there's the brachos mezainis. I just want to give you Akdama again. This was important. That the Gemara has a tzad, and we have Rashi and other Rishonim that don't have a Gemara that says rice b'chlal. So we're starting with our left foot a little bit because it's a machlekes in the Rishonim b'chlal if you should make mezainis. So the kitza. So we have a machlekes b'chlal if rice is a mezainis, if that's what we're discussing. But let's say we're going to go with Tosfos that areas in the Gemara is rice. So we're on already one side that maybe it's just Adama because the Gemara never said it's mezainis. But let's go with Tosfos that it's mezainis. So now Zok the Zayis HaBracha, he has 4 rayas that you make a bayim in mezainis on rice. And he says, firstly, the Be'alacha brings from Pri Megadim, areas shehusrikli patzai, you make a bayim in mezainis. The Pri Megadim lived in a time that there was no such thing as white rice. And the Pri Megadim is telling you that on rice you make a mezainis. So even brown rice you make a mezainis. There was no such thing. Don't give me that there was a machine. Then no, there was no such thing. You made a mezainis because that's what rice is. Even if it's brown, even if the husk is still on, you make a mezainis. It's impossible to mafit with your hands. They didn't have special machines those days. So therefore, Amol, if the Pri Megadim tells you make a mezainis, Pri Megadim lived like 200 years ago, 250 years ago. So therefore, it has to be that was brown rice, and therefore you make a mezainis. He says, he brings another thing. So the Besaysiv says that derech ha'ayis levashlei kshishalim below shum ksisha, without any ksisha. So if that's the normal thing to do, therefore you make a mezainis because that's normal today. That's how you cook rice. You make a mezainis. A third thing he says, the metzias is that ayis, which is hot and it's mizbashalative, it's mizmayich v'nidbak. Don't say that it's not mismayich. It is mismayich. If it's cooked for a decent amount of time, it's mismayich. He says another reason. Bekitzi, he says very clear that the bracha paskins you make a mezainis. The Pischa Halacha, he as in Kisvei Yadis, he has to answer this with Zayis HaBracha. Zayis HaBracha is good rice. Pri Megadim lived at that time. Was brown rice. Pri Megadim says you make a mezainis. Zok the Pischa Halacha. Rabbi Forrest, he says, this rice from Pri Megadim, there's no such makar. He says the metzias is that rice has 2 peels. One is, in English, it's called husk. The second one is called bran. Did we see that?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So he says you want to understand that, he says like by nuts. You have it that there's a klipa kasha and a klipa shnia. You have that little, the peanut, like a peanut would be the klipa kasha and the klipa, yeah. So he says, the hard part is impossible to remove. And he says that don't bring me a raya that the Paiskim spoke about ayres, that you cook it and you make a mezainis. That's referring to that it was ayres mole and you took off the hard part. He goes to town and he says that to say that the Pri Megadim didn't have these machines, maybe they knew how to bang it with a hammer. Don't bring me rayas from what they had today. We think today that a few hundred years ago they had nothing. There's no such thing. They knew how to do things also. They didn't have the machinery. They did it with their hands. That's it. They knew how to take it off with their hands. And he writes very sharp, Ein kol yisoid l'mashakasav, kvay tarasav is that whatever, all your rayas you told me, there's no such yisoid. I don't have time to go through all the nekudas, but Akapanim, he writes that no, and he says that he brings a letter from Mumchim that they're doing this white rice for thousands of years. Okay, so it's a machlekes and metzias what they did. So therefore, he comes out l'maisa brown rice. You make a adama. Hear what's going on here? Your whole life you're busy making your mezainis on your brown rice. You're all excited Zok the Pischa Halacha, brown rice you make Adama. There's a sefer called Minchas Pri. Very chashuv in Eretz Yisrael. I think his name is Rabbi Rattenberg. He says over there, brown rice, loyte mishabru, do not make a mezainis unless it's nesmayach ayidei bishul. If it's not nesmayach, you make it by a pedam. There's a sefer called Minchas Ish. He's an anical, I don't know if you ever heard of him, Rabbi Yudel Shapiro. Rabbi Yudel Shapiro was a big Talmud of Chazon Ish. He was the Rosh Kail of Chazon Ish, along with Nisa Kirelis. He was the youngest, so people don't know as much about him. He was a massive Talmud Chacham. Bekitza, his anical has a beautiful sefer called Minchas Ish. I have a lot of letters to him back and forth. And he writes over there, you make Adam on brown rice, no problem. So this is a little bit problematic, and I'm sure we're going to continue on this topic next week, because we have a lot of discussions to discuss still about Rice Krispies and rice cakes and all that, and granola bars, and like we started saying about sugar crisp and all that. So therefore, it's a big, very, very big topic here, but we're leaving you a little bit problematic, and I'm throwing you a bomb over here that Shmuel Kamenetsky told me on white rice to make Adama. I never heard that before, but that's what Shmuel Kamenetsky told me, and I heard this about him. I heard that that's what he passed, and so I asked the people around him, and they said, yeah, and then I asked him, and he said very clearly that he makes Adama, but didn't say I should make Adama. He said very clearly, that's what my mama does a getan. So I guess that's what they made. It wasn't just his mama. His father, I'm sure, was masking to that psak. And Mitch Hashem to be continued next week. Nice seeing everyone. Oh, next week's a time. So I don't know if we're going to have next week, Tuesday. All right, next week, Tuesday, Sabbath Davis. So I don't know if we'll have. Okay. Nice meeting everyone live.